Hi, it's Rose here. Welcome to Ground It in the Garden. It's the third week of July and I'm outside on a super hot day. It's about 98 degrees, but I wanted to show you things that we should and could be doing at this time of year. So I'm equipped with lots of liquids today. Let me show you some of them. First of all, a hydrated gardener is a happy gardener. Please make sure you drink lots of water, have it handy, take little breaks and drink your water as you go, especially in heat like this. The next thing I want to show you is an old gardener's trick. You might have some of this on hand at home. Okay, this time of year is really buggy, so what you can do is spray this on your ankles and shoes, and this way the bugs will not attack you. It acts as a repellent. So you might already have it on hand and it really works. The second thing I have for you is an essential oil spray. This mixture is made of lavender oil and peppermint oil. So you just put a few drops of each in a bottle like this. Make sure it's a glass bottle. Plastic does not work with essential oils. So what you do is you can spray this all over your body. It acts as an insect repellent. Smells really nice too. You can also use this to spray on your plants to keep deer and bunnies away. In that case, you just need to add a drop or two of dish soap to help it adhere to the plants. It won't harm them. You can also use this to spray on your pets during tick season. It really works. It repels them. So what a great invention with multiple uses. Another liquid I have today is my vinegar solution. Remember, this can be used instead of glyphosate or Roundup. It is made of, well, this container is made of 3 cups of water, 1 cup of vinegar, and about 1/4 cup of salt. Mix it up a little and spray it. It really works. The only thing I found is you need to spray it more often, especially on grassy types of weeds. This is a very important thing I haven't mentioned in a while. You should actually use this after pruning or clipping each type of plant, especially if you think the plant has problems or diseases. Just spray it, let it dry a little, and then you can clip the next plant. Roses in particular have a lot of diseases and bacteria, and if, you know, like I said, if you know any plants have fungus or any type of disease, give them a little spray. It really helps. It's a good gardening practice. My last liquid I want to show you is insecticidal spray. I am not promoting this brand. It just so happens I had this brand on hand. And I would not recommend using this as a first resort. Always try to remove insects with by hand with your fingers. You know, you can wear your gloves. Put them in a little bucket of soapy water and that kills your insects instantly. Or you can spray your insects with a good blast of water. You might have to do that a few times a week and then follow up the weeks afterwards. I think the bugs just get annoyed and then they go find another place to live. You can also try biological controls. They're becoming more popular these days. If you go online or to a garden center, they sell insects that will act as predators for the insects that are being predators on your plants. So you can look into that. So before you resort to any kind of spray, try those measures first. Even if I were to use this on, let's say, Japanese beetles, it could also harm other insects or insect eggs or larvae on the plants that we can't see to the naked eye. So keep that in mind. Okay, are you ready? I'm taking you around my yard today. It's not spectacular, but I have lots of plants that I love and that I'm very proud of. And I'm going to show you the maintenance activities that we can both do at this time of year. Are you ready? Let's go. So the first thing you really should do is just take a walk around your yard and explore the health and the attractiveness and beauty of your plants. Here you see I have some sunflowers growing in a pot, and I actually planted these seeds back in springtime, and then I left for a few weeks because I stayed at my mother's house to help take care of her. And when I came back a week or two ago, I just see these stunning, cheerful, happy flowers. So I'm so excited. My daughter did help me. She did some watering while I was gone. I just want to point out that there are other sunflower varieties aside from the big tall ones. This one is only supposed to grow about 2 feet tall, and it fits very well in pots. So I also have some liatris in here. They're both great pollinators. And I do see some bees back here in this sunflower. So they're doing their job pollinating. Sunflowers are great pollinating plants, and they also leave seeds for the birds. So basically, these plants don't need much work. They just need watering. And maybe the bottom leaves need to be cut back or cut off because they're yellow or brown around the edges. Otherwise, they look great. Whoa, check out this calibrachoa, otherwise called baby petunias. I planted this as a teeny tiny plant in this planter, and look at it now. It just kind of blew up into this big, beautiful pinkish red mound. Awesome. If you look closely at each little flower, it has like a throat in it with the stamens that hold the pollen. So there is a bee right here to the right pollinating right now, but this is also a good plant for hummingbirds. Awesome. I never expected it to grow this big. Okay, I'm just showing you a little more routine care. We have some geraniums here with a sweet potato vine, and this actually was a group of pussy willow branches I stuck in here right before Easter time. They've rooted and now they've grown leaves, and so I just left them there. They create some height, and it's a different color green than I have here, so it kind of works. So first thing I want to do is pinch off the geranium stems. This flower is almost spent, so we want to go down to the bottom of the stem and just kind of pinch it off. You should hear a crack right down to the base. Here's another one. Again, why are we doing this? To create health in the plant so that new flowers can grow, and it just keeps the plant going all season long. This is a plant I'd like to show you how to propagate in one of my next videos. This sweet potato vine isn't really trailing around, and I don't think I really want it to. I don't want it to go all the way to the ground, so I am going to cut this back a little bit, just so it doesn't look like a big wild bush. I really just wanted it here for color. Alrighty. All throughout the season we have to take care of our weeds. Now luckily these are nice and big, so I should be able to pull the roots right out. There we go. If they give you a tug, or if you think they're going to be hard to get out, or you won't get all of the roots, it's a great idea to dig them out with your digger. I'll continue going around the yard pulling weeds. You don't need to see that. It's not the most fun job in the world, but it is therapeutic. This is a good time to prune your shrubs. If you see any spindly branches sticking out, actually, before you do that, you should really try to look underneath to see if you see any butterfly eggs because Nandina actually is one of the plants that butterflies will lay their eggs on, and usually they lay them on the undersides of the leaves. Okay, I don't see any, but give it a good check. You can actually take a whole section of Nandina. Let me just go down here. And this makes a nice addition to a flower arrangement. The yellows and pinks in there really can spruce up a hydrangea or a couple roses. Okay, so just gonna take off a little bit. I couldn't keep going without stopping at my little topiary shrub here and giving it a little pruning. So I did all the other balls, but this is the last one here. Just giving it a good little trim for the rest of the season. That should do it. Okay, here I have a little front garden. I have a lot of drought tolerant plants here and pollinators. As you can see, there's a little butterfly dancing around my Russian sage. And if you look closely, there's a bee buzzing around my little liatris plant here. So it's just fun to come out here and see the activity. Okay, I see that little zinnia down there needs a little pinching. Look, I had some little random black-eyed Susans grow in the garden. That's good because the ones I planted were eaten by the deer this year. Moving on. See, I have a whole bunch of zinnias here. Zinnias are great for attracting hummingbirds. This is a plant I just bought at a local nursery. You'll see a video of my tour of that nursery, but this I just fell in love with. It's a variegated leaved false sunflower. I love it. So let me start with these zinnias. As you can see on this plant, most of them have faded, and I see some new buds that want to come out. So to encourage them, I'm going to clip back the older buds down to the next set of nodes. And I'm not throwing these away. I'm just going to let them lay on the ground. I can actually tuck them in a little bit, so maybe some of those seeds will take hold and germinate next year. Okay, we're good. This one is pretty faded. I might as well take it off while I'm out here. Right down to the next node. Okay. This fall sunflower, I could do the same thing here. Well, that zinnia didn't have much of anything left on it. Okay. This basil plant needs a little deadheading. So what I'll do is I'll take my kitchen clippers and just cut above a set of nodes to allow for new growth. Once you start getting flowers, the leaves start tasting very bitter. So try to keep up on this. Okay, I have two similar planters down on my patio. They have standard roses, which I love, and then down below we have these little petunia-like flowers called calibrachoa, along with some verbena. So down here I can see all I really need to do is go along quickly and just pinch off any dried up or spent flowers, you know, down to the next node whenever possible. This one has one flower left, so I'm not going to save that one flower because the whole bunch is dried. Just pinch these off. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. These flowers are spent here. See, the flowers are gone. And I'm just going to just pinch those off. You don't have to do the whole yard in one day. You can split it up. Maybe one day do the front yard, one day do another bed, you know, and the next day do your planters. Split it up that way. And as you go, that's how you do your weeding as well. You don't want a major project of weeding, especially in the summer in the heat. Besides, you worked hard on your garden in the winter and spring, so now is the time to enjoy it. Okay, looking up here at the rose, you can see there are a lot of spent flowers, and there's also some damage from Japanese beetles if you look closely. I don't see any Japanese beetles. I'm not sure where they are right now. Oh, I see a spotted lanternfly in there. So I don't see the beetles, but I see their damage. Oh, you know what? I have rose cane borer. This is a problem. This is a problem. See the hole in that cane or that stem? This rose bush is not going to last long. What happens is wasps or other beneficial insects will nest. They'll bore holes in there and nest all winter long, and that basically destroys the plant. So I'll enjoy it while I can because there's really nothing I can do about it. Let me set my camera down, then I can show you how to prune. Just a light pruning. When I looked for the footage of pruning my red standard rose over there, it wasn't there for some reason. So I'm showing you how to prune this little rose just real quickly here. This flower is faded, it's spent. I'm going to down a little bit, and I see a little bud right here, so I'm gonna trim right there. Here's another one that's faded. We wanna look down at the nodes for little buds. Okay, this right here has a bud, so I'm trimming right above it. And you just do the same thing throughout. If you trim at a node where there is no bud, you probably won't get any new growth. There's a bud in here. Okay, so I will just continue. You get the idea. Normally I put my plant clippings and my weeds in my compost pile, but I don't put roses in there. I just feel that roses have too many diseases and problems that I don't want to grow in my compost pile, because the compost is used to nourish the soil for a bunch of other plants, so I'd rather not do it. And we can't forget, especially after trimming roses. Now, we did most of our pruning in late winter, but there are some plants that should not be pruned at that time, and this is one of them. This is a lace cap hydrangea. As you can see, I have 4 of them. They've all bloomed, and now they're starting to look a little too wild and crazy. So as soon as they're done blooming, I'd like to trim them back very well. They do serve the purpose. They hold that soil in on the slope, and they provide a little shade for the smaller plants down below on the slope. So, and I can see the bumblebees are really enjoying them too. So here's a plant that I wasn't sure early in the season if it was a real plant or if it was a weed. But now, as I see it, this looks like nothing recognizable to me. It looks like a weed, and it's at the point where it has a bunch of flowers along the little stems, and I need to get rid of it. And of course, this cannot go in my compost pile. It will need to go in the trash. Oh, look how it's clearing up this whole area. My Solomon seal can breathe a little now. Another one. Huh. Okay. You know, I think in the beginning I thought that might be a black-eyed Susan, but no, it's not. It's gone. As time has gone by, I've kind of changed my view on gardening. I took a lot of courses in ornamental horticulture from Longwood Gardens, and I learned so much, and I appreciate it and love all of those plants. But I'm realizing that the value of native plants is something we all need to realize and appreciate and support. So I've planted a few little wildflower gardens. I want to show you this one here. This beautiful bushy plant here is Amsonia in the early spring or late spring. It has pretty light blue flowers. Here's some Coreopsis. I see some black-eyed Susans in there and cone flowers. I did plant some seeds in the beginning. They didn't really take, so I've been planting plants in here. Here's a nice little milkweed down there. Some zinnias. I planted these zinnias, of course. I love to attract the hummingbirds and the other pollinators. And these are all surrounding this beautiful southern magnolia. Treacherous. Nice native plant. And it just goes around this edge here. So I wanted to show you that. I do need to do a little weeding. Look at this. The deer stripped this hydrangea plant. Oh my goodness. Well, luckily I do see some new growth on there. I think what I'll do is cut the stems back to the point of right above the node where I do see some new growth. I guess the deer are hungry. There's another one over there. Maybe they'll grow back a little bit this year, and then next year they'll do better, and I'll remember to spray them. Here's something else you can do at any time of year. If you see suckers growing at the bottom of a tree, just cut them off as closely as you can to the base. You don't want them taking energy from the rest of the tree. This is probably happening because I cut off one of the stems here. Let me show you something else. So I recently had this ornamental pear tree chopped down, yay. But as you can see, the roots that are remaining are growing some suckers. So we want to try to get these suckers off too. This might persist for a while. I should actually get some stronger pruners and cut these roots to try to destroy them. So I notice this when I go for my walks around the neighborhood. Even trees that are still living, these ornamental pear trees, they have suckers all around them. They're relentless. I hate them. Look at this, black-eyed Susans chopped off by the deer. They must be extra hungry this year. Okay, one thing I try to do while I'm outside each time is empty my compost. This compost is scraps from inside the house, a bag of coleslaw mix, some coffee filters with coffee grounds, and some other cuttings from the kitchen. But like I said, I would put weeds in here and plant clippings from the garden as well. So every time I come out, I should toss the pile, dig from the bottom, bring it up to the top. This pile is still pretty new. I started it about a month ago, and I have not tossed it weekly. So it's still pretty rough. It has some small branches in it. The more you toss, the quicker your compost decomposes, and then you'll have soil ready to spread around the base of your plants. As you can see, the pile looks darker, and what I did was I brought the outside to the inside. I brought the top to the bottom, just tossed it all around. I even added some compost from this pile right next to it, which is a few months old. Now honestly, I have not been tossing them enough, but they will get there. Now if you don't feel that you have the time or energy to start a real compost pile like this, you can always get a little tumbling composter to keep on your patio or your deck and just make smaller batches. And then you'll have really nice soil to add to your plants. I may have mentioned before that I really don't like using plant food and fertilizers with all my plants outside. I feel that the compost alone adds a great soil structure and lots of nutrients, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that the plants need. You can kind of compare that to humans. If we eat right, if we take in all the right foods, then we probably don't need to add supplements to our diet. So I try to keep creating compost and spread it around as I go. If I see specific plants are failing or need a jump start or a boost, I'll give it to those over the other established plants, but I try to keep them all nourished. So if you have any questions about compost, I did make a video last year. You can find it on my YouTube channel. It's called Just Us Grown Up Girls, 5 separate words, and go under the playlist called Getting Grounded in the Garden. Okay, let's move on. Now I take back what I said about compost. When you're growing vegetables or herbs or any special flowering annuals in your garden, that's when you will need some plant food or special fertilizer. Here's one now I'm going to add to this tomato plant, and make sure I follow the instructions. What you want to do is look for the NPK numbers on the bag. See that 344 there? I'm going to do a video about the NPK, but for now you want to stick with a formula that is about the same across the board. If anything, that number in the middle should be a little higher while you're trying to grow buds and flowers and fruits. So we'll get more into that later. So let's talk about asters and mums, fall blooming plants. I have already trimmed this group of asters back. I did it in June, and now it's a little too late to prune it back again, so I'm just going to let it grow. It'll be a big, beautiful, flowing bunch of purple aster in the fall. Okay, here is a mum, or a perennial chrysanthemum, that I've already pruned back, and it looks like it's low enough and I can't prune it any longer. But what you want to try to do each season is prune it early, maybe early June, and then again in early July. And this way, when fall comes, your mums will be nice and full and rounded rather than floppy and stemmy. So one trick you can do also is trim the front a little lower than the back. So you'll basically have a flush of 2 blooms. So first the back will bloom, and then the front of the plant will bloom and hide the spent flowers behind it. So, and then basically you want to wait until springtime to prune it back again, or early June. Check this out. While staying at my mom's, we painted some rocks and birdhouses, and I just hung this birdhouse up about 3 weeks ago, and already when I looked at it, a little bird came out. I'm not sure if it was a wren. It was a small bird, and there's a nest inside. Wow, good thing I hung up 4 other ones as well. We went crazy painting these things. Awesome. I'd like to show you this smoke bush, this Cotinus cogogria. This is the golden spirit variety, and if you saw my video in late winter, I pruned this back really hard. I pollarded it, and it looked like it was next to nothing. Now it's full and beautiful and colorful, and the flowers will bloom soon. So next to it is a lilac bush. It's way too big for this spot, and the best time to have pruned this would have been right after it finished blooming. Now it's too late because the new buds have already established and need time to continue to grow for next year. But hopefully next year I'll be here and I'll be able to prune this after it blooms. At least it'll be a big, beautiful flowering display next year, and fragrant too. This would also be a good time to prune back these inkberries. Remember, I did not do it in late winter or early spring because it had not bloomed and been pollinated. So now that's done, it can be pruned back. In Pennsylvania alone, we have 26 counties that are infested with spotted lanternfly. If you notice them, please go to this site, extension.psu.edu. That's the Penn State Extension, where you will find all the information you want, how to identify them and what to do about them. By the way, the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture encourages you to kill every one that you see. You can try killing the spotted lanternflies by first swatting them, and make sure you go head on because they leap very quickly straight ahead. They don't go backwards. You can also, knock them down and squish them on the ground with your foot. You can spray them individually with insecticidal soap, or you can resort to these electric bug zappers. Okay? If you do, please follow instructions for your own safety. That one. Got him. It's so hot out that every time I try to tape, my camera cuts out. So let me try again. What I do pretty often is I compare plant life to human life. I do a lot of thinking while I'm outside. So one thing that I always notice is that when I'm far away from a garden, I can't see things clearly, but as I move closer and closer, I can see the beauty and the diversity of every single plant, every color, every little insect and activity that's happened, just as you would do on a city street. As you get closer and closer, you'll find places to eat and drink. You can see here my pollinators have a little dish down there where they can get a drink, because many times it's hard for them to find water. I also have another bowl back here in this corner, okay, just to make it convenient for them. I am in the middle of painting a little butterfly house. They kind of look like birdhouses, but instead of a circle, they have little slats. And the butterflies can go in there for refuge during storms or during cold weather. So I would like to put one or two of those up around my gardens. All right, so I have some yarrow here, some dill in a container, butterfly weed, I'm gonna come back to that. Lots of cone flowers, some beard and tongue here, and back down on the ground, some lantana, all plants that butterflies love. And I'm showing you on the screen some other plants that you can look for when you go out shopping for pollinating plants. I did prune back or deadhead back some spent flowers, and that's a great thing you can do with any kind of plant. Whenever you see flowers fading with new potential growth coming up, cut them back. Give the new flowers an opportunity to grow, and many times they will be healthier than the first batch. You'll see some seeds left over in your garden, like these beard and tongue seeds, and these seed heads on the top of these cone flowers. What you can do is leave the ones that are remaining in late summer, early fall. Leave them for the birds to eat over the winter time. Don't be in a hurry to cut them back in the spring either, because there's some late feeders at that time. You can also take some of the seeds in late summer or fall. You just shake them into a paper bag or any kind of bag and lay them out on a paper towel to dry for a day or two. Then put them in a paper envelope refrigerate it over the winter, and then take it out in the spring and just sow those seeds. Toss them around in the gardens where you would like them. You can also start them indoors in late winter in your own little pots and then plant them outside. It's fun. It's all fun stuff. Okay, here is the cool plant I want to talk about today. Okay, I hope you can excuse my appearance today. It's just so hot out here, but I want to get this out to you in a timely fashion so that when you get out in your yard, you can see the same things I'm seeing. Okay, this very important plant here is called Asclepias tuberosa. The common name is butterfly weed or milkweed. As you can see, it's getting ready to form a new flush of orange flowers at the tips. Asclepias is a genus that has a variety of species. Tuberosa is just one of them, but I'm showing you a list of others you might be able to find at your nurseries that carry native plants. Some have different color flowers, some are taller, some spread more, some have wider leaves than these. But the important thing to know is that Asclepias is the only plant that monarch butterflies will lay their eggs on, and the only plant that the caterpillars will eat. So we need these in our yards all across the country. Okay, we all remember when we were in grade school, we learned about metamorphosis, the 4 life stages of a butterfly. They are egg, caterpillar, cocoon, and then adult butterfly. Even as adults, it's really exciting to watch that process. And actually, if you go on YouTube these days, some amazing photographers and videographers have gotten footage of the up-close process. It's just beautiful, miraculous, actually. So the whole life of a butterfly is only 30 to 40 days, very short. One thing we did not learn back in the day, but I've been doing some research, is that butterflies go through 4 generations in 1 year. Yes, so the first butterflies in early spring are born in central Mexico or some parts of California. When the eggs hatch, they go through the life stages down there in Mexico. As soon as the adult butterflies emerge, within a few days they find a mate and they start laying eggs as they begin traveling north and east up through the country. This is the beginning of their journey. So that accounts for the first generation. So when these adult butterflies are hatched, within 3 or 4 days they mate and they begin laying their eggs as they begin traveling northward and eastward through the country. So as they travel, they are laying eggs on Asclepias plants like this, individually on the leaves. They might lay a bunch on one plant. They might lay some on this plant and then go a little further and lay some on another plant. But all in all, one butterfly can produce 300 to 500 eggs. Shortly after she lays the eggs, she dies, and this new generation, or her children, start their life cycle as they travel north. This continues. You'll have a second generation, which would be the grandchildren, and a third generation, which would be great-grandchildren. And then by the time they reach the northern states or even into Canada, they are in their 4th generation. And now the 4th generation is the hardiest and most amazing of all, because they travel all the way back down to Mexico, making stops along the way. If you live in Pennsylvania or New Jersey, if you go to Cape May in September or October, you can visit the bird observatory there and see lots and lots of monarchs. This is their known place for migration, for a migration stop. Isn't it amazing that butterflies have this internal GPS system so they know where to go throughout the year? It fascinates me. So they make their way back to Mexico. When this 4th generation gets to Mexico, they hibernate for about 6 months, And then in the early spring, they lay their eggs and the whole process starts again. It is a beautiful process, but it's not always guaranteed. One thing that surprised me as I was doing my research is that the monarch butterfly population has decreased 90% over the last 2 years. 90%, that means there's only 10% left. It's due to a lot of reasons, but mainly reasons caused by humans. They would be deforestation and development and building. It's the increased use of pesticides and herbicides, the use of GMOs, mainly in corn or agricultural products. So if you have milkweed plants all around these agricultural products, the butterflies are used to stopping there and they ingest these chemicals and they act as toxins in their bodies. Another thing that happens to them is they don't have enough milkweeds along their route. They can't find them, so they starve. Some people also say climate change has a lot to do with it. They're not used to those drastic fluctuations. They can't handle the cold weather. So against all odds, the survivors are very lucky. If you love butterflies like I do, I know that, when I see a butterfly, it just lights me up. It actually makes me think of someone I know who I loved who has died, and I feel like they're coming back to say hello to me. Many people also think they have spiritual meanings. They believe that they symbolize transformation and new life. I mean, a lot of people love butterflies. If you think back to when we were kids, we used to see them all the time. Now we're very lucky to have a sighting, So that just goes to show you what's happening here. You might be asking, what can I do about it? Here's what you can do. Plant as many native Asclepias plants as you can. I'm showing you a list now of the native ones. Please do not pick the tropical or non-native ones. They have parasites in them that are also toxic to our native butterflies. So try to stick with the ones on this list. Do a freeze frame and take that list with you to a nursery. In the fall, you will see that these seed pods will grow and they will split open, and inside it'll look like a cottony fibers, and there will be seeds in there. Pick them out. If you can't do it with your fingers, use tweezers and do the same thing. Let them dry on a paper towel and then store them over the winter in the refrigerator and then sow them in the spring. This will help. They do self-seed quite a bit on their own, but it's not always guaranteed. And actually, when they do self-seed, a lot of times it's in barren fields or on the side of roads and they get mowed away. That's another reason they die. So I hope this made an impact on you. I'm sorry it took a little longer than I wanted it to, but I feel that it's very important, even in this day and age when we have so many other major issues. Here's one thing that you can do. Okay, so you can plant these plants, you can educate others about them, or you can get involved in some conservation efforts, either by donating or volunteering or just visiting and showing some interest in one way or another. It is very important to keep all of our living things alive, to keep our ecosystems in balance. Oh, some people will find monarch butterfly eggs on their plants and they will snip that whole branch or that whole leaf, bring it inside and put it in a mesh butterfly house and watch it grow in there. Make sure they feed it with plants, with Asclepias plant leaves. And then when the adult butterfly hatches, they release it. Oh, one thing I said is that they only lay their eggs on Asclepias, and they're caterpillars. When they hatch, they only eat the Asclepias plants. That is true, but the adult butterflies do eat the nectar from other kinds of pollinating plants, so it is useful to have them too. And when you create a whole environment, a whole community like this, it just adds to the whole diversity of the whole ecosystem. Imagine every yard in your neighborhood having a butterfly garden. Wouldn't that be really helpful to the whole environment? If I didn't answer everything, there's so much information online and in books. And it's also a great project for you and your children or your neighbor's children or your students to do, is to raise butterflies. It's just unbelievable when you watch a caterpillar create its own sac, its own cocoon, by using silk and by making it go round and round its body. And then it gets enclosed in that cocoon. The cocoon grows, and then towards the end it's kind of iridescent. You can see through it. You can see those orange and black wings in there, and it emerges the next day. Just beautiful. Okay, to summarize it, what we did today was we inspected all of our plants. The ones that needed pruning, we pruned, basically because their flowers had faded and we wanted to promote new growth. We weeded as we went along. I didn't show you that, but that's what I do. This way I don't have a whole big project. You just pick a few weeds as you go each time you go outside. You water yourself and your plants. Now, your new plants, you know, need extra watering in the beginning, but after a while, your native plants and your shrubs and trees shouldn't need any extra watering unless you have a long dry period. You add to your compost pile and keep that turning, tossing. You feed any annual plants with fruits or flowers on them, especially plants that are growing in pots or containers. And you make sure you have time to relax and enjoy your pretty garden and your surroundings. Get some fresh air, take in the sunshine, and just enjoy life. That's what it's all about. Oh, don't forget the spotted lanternflies. If you live in Pennsylvania, they really are pesky and invasive. And look for those monarch butterflies. Plant some plants to keep them healthy along their journeys. And take care and stay healthy yourself. And I'll see you next time.